Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into what the destruction of Russia's land bridge means for the war in Ukraine. This moment is being described by many analysts as a potential turning point, one that could reshape how the conflict unfolds both on the battlefield and in broader geopolitical terms. We're going to explore what this land bridge actually is, why it matters so much to both sides, what its destruction or disruption implies, and what it could mean for the future of the war. The idea of a land bridge is simple in concept, but enormous in strategic importance. When Russia invaded Ukraine, one of its core objectives was to create a continuous corridor of control that connected Russia proper with Crimea, which Moscow had annexed back in 2014. This corridor would stretch through occupied territories in southeastern Ukraine, including areas such as Mariupol, Melitopol, and Berdyansk, effectively linking Russia to Crimea by land rather than relying solely on the Kerch Strait Bridge. For Russia, this land bridge was more than just a matter of geography. It was the backbone of its logistical network. Supplies, troops, fuel, ammunition, and equipment could move directly from Russian territory to Crimea and southern Ukraine without having to depend entirely on maritime routes or the vulnerable Crimean Bridge. It was a lifeline that allowed Russia to sustain its military operations in occupied territories and reinforce its positions when under pressure. From Ukraine's perspective, this land bridge represented both a strategic threat and an opportunity. As long as Russia maintained it, Moscow could reliably feed its war effort in the south. But if Ukraine could disrupt or even sever this connection, it would essentially choke off Russia's ability to sustain its occupation in key areas. Destroying the land bridge, or even making it unreliable, would make it much harder for Russia to defend Crimea, and it could open the door for Ukrainian counteroffensives. The destruction of parts of this corridor, whether through targeted strikes, partisan attacks, or systematic attrition, marks a significant shift in the dynamics of the war. Every supply train delayed, every bridge damaged, every rail line destroyed adds friction to Russia's ability to maintain its war machine. Logistics is the quiet heartbeat of any war. Once it falters, everything else, from morale to battlefield effectiveness, starts to unravel. Let's look at what has been happening on the ground. Ukrainian forces have been intensifying their efforts to target critical nodes along the land bridge. Using long-range missiles, drones, and precision strikes, they've attacked supply depots, rail lines, and infrastructure that serve as arteries of Russian logistics. Reports suggest that Russia has been forced to reroute supplies through longer, more vulnerable paths. This not only slows deliveries, but also increases exposure to Ukrainian attacks. The most famous example, of course, is the Crimean Bridge over the Kerch Strait, built by Russia to connect the Russian mainland to Crimea. It became both a symbol of Russian dominance and a vital supply route. When Ukraine struck the bridge, it wasn't just a tactical blow. It was psychological. It showed that nowhere was safe, not even what Moscow considered its own infrastructure. Since those strikes, satellite imagery and intelligence reports suggest Russia has drastically reduced or even halted military use of the bridge, opting for more roundabout routes that take longer and cost more to maintain. This has had cascading effects. Fuel shortages at the front, ammunition rationing, and delays in troop rotations have all been reported. Armies move on logistics, not slogans. When your trucks can't reach the front or your trains are under constant threat, your fighting ability declines sharply. It's not just about moving bullets and bombs. It's about food, medical supplies, spare parts, and fuel. Every missing truckload erodes Russia's operational capacity a little more. The disruption also forces Russia to make tough strategic choices. Should it focus on defending the land bridge and invest heavily in repairing infrastructure, or should it withdraw resources to reinforce its front lines elsewhere? Either choice is costly. Protecting the land bridge means diverting troops and air defenses from active fronts. Abandoning it risks isolating Crimea and undermining Russia's overall position in the south. For Ukraine, this is a rare opportunity. If the land bridge remains crippled, Ukraine could aim to exploit Russian weaknesses, launching limited offensives to cut remaining supply lines completely. Even if Ukraine cannot seize the entire corridor, it can make it unusable, forcing Russia into a logistical nightmare. Over time, that could erode Moscow's ability to hold territory and sustain large-scale combat operations. But there's another layer to consider: psychology and perception. The destruction of this land bridge undermines one of Russia's key narratives, that it has consolidated its control over southern Ukraine and Crimea. Every explosion, every bridge collapse, every halted train reminds both sides that control is not permanent. For Russian soldiers and civilians in occupied territories, that uncertainty breeds fear and doubt. For Ukrainians, it fuels determination and hope. Still, we must be realistic. Completely severing the land bridge is not easy. Russia has enormous resources and can improvise new routes, even if they are less efficient. It can shift to maritime transport across the Azov Sea, build pontoon bridges, or use air supply in emergencies. However, every alternative comes with a cost. Ships can be sunk, airlifts are expensive and risky, and temporary bridges can be destroyed again. The longer Russia has to operate under these conditions, the weaker its strategic position becomes. At the same time, Ukraine's ability to maintain pressure depends heavily on continued Western support. Long-range precision weapons, surveillance, and real-time intelligence are crucial. Without them, sustaining attacks deep into occupied territories becomes harder. So, while the destruction of the land bridge is a military achievement, it also underscores the importance of political and logistical support from Ukraine's allies. There are broader implications beyond the battlefield. If Russia's land connection to Crimea is broken, Crimea itself becomes more isolated. That raises questions about its long-term viability under Russian control. Supplying Crimea solely by sea or through the damaged Kerch Bridge is inefficient and vulnerable. Over time, that isolation could make Crimea a strategic liability rather than an asset. This would be a symbolic blow to Russia, given how much political capital Moscow invested in annexing Crimea. For Ukraine, the potential payoff is enormous. Weakening or cutting the land bridge could shift the balance of power in the south, force Russia to retreat from some territories, and strengthen Kiev's position in any future negotiations. It would also demonstrate to its allies that Ukrainian strategy and resilience are paying off, potentially ensuring sustained foreign support. Of course, wars are unpredictable, and logistics alone don't guarantee victory. Weather, manpower, morale, and politics all matter. But in modern warfare, logistics is often the deciding factor. The destruction of the land bridge represents more than physical damage. It's a signal that Russia's grip is not unbreakable, that Ukraine has the capability to strike deep and disrupt what was once thought untouchable. In the long run, this could shape how Russia conducts the war. It might push Moscow to transition to a defensive posture, focusing on holding what it already occupies rather than seeking new gains. It might also increase domestic pressure as costs mount and the illusion of secure control fades. For Ukraine, meanwhile, every successful strike reinforces the idea that endurance and precision can overcome size and brute force. This war has always been as much about endurance as about firepower, The side that can sustain its logistics, repair its infrastructure, and adapt faster will eventually have the upper hand. With the land bridge damaged, Russia faces a much steeper climb to maintain its momentum. Ukraine, while still under immense strain, has shown that it can adapt quickly and target Russia's weaknesses effectively. In essence, the destruction of the land bridge is a reminder that wars are won not just on the front lines, but in the arteries that feed them. It's about who can keep their forces supplied, who can rebuild faster, and who can sustain morale under pressure. For now, Ukraine's strategy of targeting logistics appears to be paying off. Whether it leads to major territorial gains remains to be seen, but it undeniably changes the strategic landscape of the conflict. Thank you for watching, and if you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the disruption of Russia's land bridge could eventually turn the tide of the war?